It participated in all the other wars of the United States, from the Korean War, the Vietnam War, the Gulf War, and even recently into Iraq and Afghanistan. Okay. This weapon has proven to be very reliable. In fact, the good points of this is that it has the power. No, having um, having 709 grains of bullet pushed at more than 3,000 feet per second makes for a good penetrating and very far-reaching weapon. It is very reliable, as everything John Moses Browning made, and then as you can see from its construction, all steel. There is nothing effeminate about this weapon. It's all steel. It's very heavy. Okay, let's have a close-up of this fantastic weapon. Now here, as you can see, is a 32-inch barrel. Okay, to maximize the burn of the powder so that you can get the highest power and velocity. This thing surrounding the barrel in the near portion with rings around it is supposed to enable the assistant gunner to allow traverse of this weapon. Since obviously, if you fire a lot of rounds, this is going to be very, very scorching hot. You cannot hold on to this. This one tries to give a modicum of protection to the hand if the assistant gunner needs to help you swing this or remove the barrel if you want to change it. Now, here, this little thing here you see is the front sight. Contrary to other firearms, the front sight is not placed on the barrel. It is placed on the receiver. So that, theoretically, although it does not come out always like that in real life, all barrels that you insert will hit to the point of aim. At here is what you see is the rear sight. Okay? So you align this rear sight with the post and the front sight here, and then aim, and then put that post on the target. Hopefully, the bullets will go in that direction. This nice thing underneath is called a tripod. Now, this enables the shooter to shoot accurately. While this gun can be fired without a tripod, you will not want to do that if you intend to hit anything. So, this tripod has to be able to, number one, support the weight of the gun. Number two, be stable enough for firing. Number three, not fall down when it is used. This knob here is the cocking handle. Now, as Julius will illustrate, it works this way. Okay, Jules, cock. Okay, there. Now, what Julius is holding on are the spade grips. This allows him to control the weapon. Okay, come closer. Okay, here, this is the trigger. This is the trigger. It's called a butterfly trigger. To fire it, Julius will put his fingers there and depress downwards. Okay, this knob here is called the bolt release. You can turn it this way if you want to fire in semi-automatic mode. Okay, when it is in this motion, in this position, you will not use this, but use this. Now, if you want to go full automatic, twist it all the way there with this knob going up. Now you're ready to shoot on full automatic. Now, to load the weapon, there is a knob you have to depress first and open the receiver cover, or otherwise known as your feed cover. You will insert, although we will not insert it purposely because it's dangerous. There is a slot as this gun feeds from the left side. You insert it here and then close the weapon. Okay. Okay, there. You put that up, put the ammunition here, close it, and then close this. Okay? We won't do that because it's kind of dangerous. Now, once it's fed inside, you just close it, and then it's ready to shoot. Okay. As previously mentioned, this gun does not operate as a gas-operated weapon, but rather is as typical of John Browning's designs. This is short recoil operated, meaning it uses the recoil of the cartridge to operate the weapon. As you will notice, when Julius cocks the weapon, the barrel moves back a little. Okay, okay. Now, also notice that when Julius cocks it again, the bolt follows down. Okay. So as this weapon, typical of the designs of John Moses Browning, fires from a closed bolt, compared to the machine guns of the day that fire from an open bolt. What it means is that the bolt goes there and follows it down, so that it enables the shooter to shoot more accurately, since there is no heavy bolt slamming forward. However, the penalty there is that if you fire this a lot and then stop, it is possible that the cartridge inside will fire on its own, a cook off. However, that is not a very common problem, and so that is one of the few shortcomings of this design. Now, when you can look here into the muzzle and notice that even though it's a bit rusty outside, the bore is silver in color. Okay, that silver bore is a sign of its of chroming, which allows, which prevents corrosion from happening and strengthens the ability of the barrel to sustain many thousands of rounds if fired moderately. Before we transfer to the next machine gun, allow me to say a few more words about this weapon. It has been in service since 1920, and for 89 years it has proven to be such an almost perfect design that nothing else has yet been made that would be able to replace it. There are prototype weapons that are supposed to have improved on it. However, it is almost in the same form it was as when it came out in the early 1920s, and there is no reason to think that it might not serve for another 50 years. In our armed forces, the armed forces of the Philippines, this is still considered to be almost state of the art still. You can add a rail here, put optics, and that weapon is modernized. So much for the M2 50 caliber heavy machine gun. Let's go to the next machine gun. Okay. Now we transfer to the little brother of this weapon. M2 Browning heavy machine gun. This is called the Browning M1919A4 medium machine gun. Why medium? Because this one is 50. It's called 50. It's called heavy machine gun. This one fires at 30 caliber cartridge, no? And so it is called a medium, a bit smaller. Okay. This model is an outgrowth of the original Browning 1917 water-cooled machine gun. And since having a water jacket around your barrel for cooling purposes was found to be very heavy, they decided to thicken the barrel a little here and add this steel jacket outside, so which will allow you to hold on to it if you had to fire it, so that without burning your hands. Now, this weapon replaced the 1917 Browning, no, and then started to go into service in 1919. It served as the primary medium machine gun of the United States Armed Forces in World War II and in Korea. It started to be replaced in 1957 by the M60 machine gun, which we will be talking about later. Okay, so this became obsolete officially in the United States Army in 1957. However, this stayed to be our primary medium machine gun of the Armed Forces of the Philippines until replaced by the M60 also in the late 1960s. Like any other weapon designed by John Moses Browning, this weapon, like its bigger brother, is known to be very reliable and very durable. As you can see from its construction, again, it is all steel. This machine gun alone weighs 32 pounds, and while manageable, and you can actually lift it, no? Here, it is not light. At 32 pounds, it makes for a really bad handheld weapon. That is why you either use it with a tripod or bipod. However, bipods for this are quite hard to find, so you will most of the time see it with this. Now, what makes this weapon so good? Well, part of it was its design. Practically all of John Moses Browning's firearms design were very reliable, very durable, and this was no exception. One of the reasons, as you can see here, is that it's all steel. There is nothing aluminum, nothing wooden here. Everything is steel. In fact, just lifting the feed ramp of this weapon here can show you already the extent of the intent for durability here. Looking at the thickness of the steel walls, the feed cover, the sides, everything looks as if it is designed to last for a very, very long time.